Hello, my absolutely beautiful astrology soulmates, and welcome to this video where I'm actually going to answer a question that was asked in the comment section down below. And I think it's a brilliant question and an awesome opportunity for us to explore how the same sounding transit is actually different and why it's so important to locate this in your own particular chart. Okay, so first and foremost, to say I'm going to be talking about the Mars-Uranus conjunction that is coming up on Monday. We're going to talk about how this one happening here in 2024 is actually different than the one that happened in 2022. And I'm going to show you on the charts so that you can really see that, yes, even though we get the same planets doing some of the same things, the configurations of other planets or other points that also get involved really change the story. And why you would care about that is because sometimes, there will be an astrological event that people are talking about and you're like, I didn't feel any of that in my chart. Like it just did not go down for me. Or it's like, that was really, really impactful for me in my chart, right? But then the next iteration of that comes around and you're like, it doesn't feel like anything happened to me. So I want to show you how this looks different actually in the charts and explain a little bit how they play out differently. And also, I want to encourage you again to make sure that you have your own natal chart so that you can really look at this and find these placements by degree in your chart, because it will also depend, first of all, if you are using a chart and you're looking at it in whole sign, which means that all of your houses just have one sign in them each, right? So it's like the first house is Cancer, second house is Leo, third house, okay, and so on around. Then when you're looking at this transit or any transit, you're going to be looking from 0 to 29 degrees in that particular house where it falls, okay? So let's say, for instance, we had a transit that was happening at 0 degrees. It would be at the beginning of one of your houses, or we have a transit that's happening at 29 degrees. It's going to be happening at the end of one of your houses, okay? And all the numbers in between are happening somewhere in the middle. So you want to be able to identify that. And if you're using a whole sign chart, that's what it's going to look like. I don't work with whole sign charts unless it's for the general readings. So if you have a Placidus chart, where you'd have sometimes more than one sign in a house, then this becomes equally important for you to understand how to identify this on your particular chart, because you may have had, a Uranus and Taurus interaction that happened in 2022 that was in your first house. And now this one's actually going to be peeking down into your second house. So this would be an absolute change to your story. So to start out, first and foremost, one of the things you need to do is have your chart. And if you do not have a chart yet, please go to astro.com, AstroSeek, one of the free sites online, or even better, I think, come and get a chart for me. My charts are easy to read. They're easy to find the degrees. And that's why I really like to use them. But I really want you to have your own map so that you can see where the impact of this is in your chart. Because without fail, every transit that comes around, we all have impact. But once you can really spot the pattern of how this shows up in your own chart, then it's even more identifiable and you can work with it better. You can even plan your little world around it better, which is really, really awesome. Now, the next thing that you're going to need to know is if you are looking at your chart in whole sign or if you are looking at your chart in Placidus. And I'm going to pop an example over here so you can see the difference in case you're just not familiar with looking at that, okay? Just so you can see, whole sign has got one sign per house, and Placidus methods and some other methods will not have that configuration. Either way, you still need to find the degree that the transiting event is happening at in your chart and then correlate that to the house that it's happening in. Now, with the upcoming Mars and Uranus conjunction happening on July 15th, which will really, it's not a one and done. That's the day that it happens. But in the weeks that follow, not just you personally, but because Uranus is an outer planet, our world will have big implications when these two planets come together. So we're going to talk about that as well. But I also put up a blog post on my website at stormiegrace.com. You can click in the description box and just head over to it to see which house this is happening in for you to get a little bit better explanation. And if you really want more explanation, the best thing to do is to come and sit with me. Let's do a reading. And my packages are still on sale until July 22nd. So if it's not just about this, but you're looking to pull in a little bit closer, the one-on-one work we spend a year doing is phenomenal. And think about that, investing $500 in yourself for a year and coming out of the other side, not just thinking about the changes you wanted, not just wondering why you're still stuck in the same pattern, but actually having support, guidance, genuine astrology to walk you through. Man, it's an amazing thing. I would encourage you to check it out and get signed up, okay? All right, so let's get in here and talk about this. I'm practicing professional astrologer Stormie Grace, by the way, and I come from the evolutionary and humanistic lens of astrology, which means I talk a lot about where does the soul come from and where is it going, but then I also talk about, well, you're a human being, so how are you going to get that there? So if you are looking for astrology in that lens, then that is exactly what we're doing here. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at this actual chart that is from the Mars-Uranus conjunction that was happening in 2022. So this was in August of 2022. Now I want to point out over here, I've put this big circle over here so that you can see it around every body and every point that is actually involved in this transit. So first of all, just looking at the chart, you can see that not only is the transit of Uranus and Mars here together already in a different degree, it's at 18 degrees. So this means that anything in your chart that was at 18 degrees was having some kind of impact from this particular aspect, right? So, did you have was your ascendant at 18 degrees, whatever it was at 18 degrees, this is where the impact was happening. But what's different about this particular transit is that we can see that the north and the south nodes get involved. Really, particularly, the north node was involved in this. So while Mars and Uranus coming together is not entirely rare, it's really not. We're going to see it again after 2024. We're going to see it again in 2026. So it's not that that's rare, but having Uranus and Mars come together in Taurus and in conjunction with the North Node is very rare. We won't see that kind of energetic help or that kind of energetic vibration change until I think it's like 2041 or 2. It's right in there. Okay. I don't have that exactly in front of me, but that's a long time. I might not be here for that. Okay. But when we're also looking at the story and how this energy lays out for each of us, what we see here is that, yes, we have Mars and Uranus coming together and they come together and they make waves. They bring heat. And the main word that we look at when Mars and Uranus are coming together is break. Something is breaking. There is a break. There is a breakthrough. There is a breakdown. We make a break. We change directions. We go against something that's always been happening. Fire becomes a real thing we have to pay attention to when we're talking about Mars and Uranus coming together. But when they come together with the North Node that's in Taurus, that North Node is a destiny point pulling all of us forward. It's saying, okay, we need to be going this way this time because this is the destiny of the energy that you're in. So at this time, as they were meeting up in this vibration of Taurus, so many faded events were happening, or it's like by chance you meet someone, or by chance something happens. Certainly things around resources would have been really big changes, and they were all fated to happen. The stir up in our resources, in food, in things that we valued, in relationships. Relationships were incredibly impacted for many people with the intensity of this particular energy. So the North Node being involved in this also creates that next change besides the 18 degrees. It starts to say whatever's changing is genuinely pulling forward its destiny. It's on time, whether it's personally, whether it's professionally. The pressure that was there gets released and absolutely pulls you forward. And that is a beautiful feature of not only Mars and Uranus breaking it down and getting it open, busting open like that lava coming out, but then the lava gets moved in a direction that's actually useful, that's actually healing. And I think for many people, at least as far as, when I was walking through this transit with you guys, many people were talking about things breaking up. and then they were moving towards something that they felt was really in alignment. They were like, you know what? It's not just about alignment. It's like, I feel like I'm really supposed to go here. Now, something else to consider, because we do pattern track in astrology, if you really want to know how this one is different in your life and in your chart, is also look at where the nodes were at for you in your chart, obviously, but look at where the nodes were at for you. Let's see. So this is Taurus, Scorpio. So you want to go back into your life between about 2003, 2005, right in there. See what was going on in the Taurus, Scorpio areas of your chart, because this can also play into the story of what was that destiny piece pulling you towards? What were you moving towards? Now, I can share with you that for me, what was happening is that this particular transit was on top of my sun that is in the 9th house, and that north node was sitting right there with it, and it pulled me into the direction where I knew I would break with the United States and move to Europe. I knew that I would. And I knew it because 20 years ago in my nodal story, I was heading to Europe, had a different set of situations. It wasn't a break. It was a Saturnian thing where I stepped up into responsibility and had my children stayed in the United States. And when Uranus and Mars came together, Mars and Uranus, came together, and then the node was there, it was this perfect mix, and I was able to drop exactly into my story. And this is how astrology can be really useful, because go back in your own story. What was already happening then that is now at 2022 starting to really shift direction? Because when Uranus gets involved, it's fast and you know you're going to do it. It's fast and it happens and something is going in a new direction. And I can tell you that that was my absolute experience with this particular transit. Okay. Now, I want to say this just as I'm going to put a timestamp for this, but I just want to say this as well. If you have Mars and Uranus in conjunction in your birth chart, what this can mean for you, what it can mean for you personality and temperament wise, is that you may have a little bit of a fiery side. You may have a little bit of a surprising side. You can go from chill to heat it up really, really quickly. There's something about you that can be very electric and very stimulating. And you may also be the person who, to spite yourself, you impulsively do something and you're actually acting as a catalyst for something else. It's not a negative, right? Every aspect and every placement in our chart is actually there to help us. But I just want to say that you may be naturally very much so in tune with being a change maker through action. So let me know in the comment section down below if that's you, if you've got a Mars-Uranus conjunction. It doesn't have to be in Taurus, but just let me know if that's you and you have that down below. You might be like, Stormie girl, correct. Okay, so let's switch charts here really quickly, because I want to show you now how this one looks completely different and has got a completely different story going for it. Okay, so when we're looking at this chart now, we can see that Mars and Uranus are coming together here. They're at 26 degrees of Taurus. So first of all, we're at a different degree point all the way around. So we're further down or more advanced in the lessons, right? At 18 degrees, we were midway through the lessons of Uranus and Taurus and Mars coming together going, hold on, this is stuck. Let me help you chisel that out because we need to move forward, right? But you got to that middle point. Now we're at 26 degrees and there's only 29 degrees in each sign. So Mars is coming along to Uranus again and saying, oh, you appear to be a little bit stuck. Let me help you chisel that out. We're going to release this thing because we have to move forward. But as we see here, the node is in Aries. It's moved on. There's no interest. It's, pasa nada. There's no worries. Okay. So we already see that there's a different configuration there. So this will be a different story. Not to mention, in both of these charts, take a look at where the rest of the planets are at. We're not going to cover all of that, but where's the ruling planet of Taurus when we look at the one in the 22nd? Venus was in Cancer. When we look at this particular conjunction, Venus is in Leo. So even the ruling planet energy is adding a little bit of extra sizzle shazzle to this, okay? But as we see this come together at this 26 degrees, What we have is pure Mars, pure Uranus energy. Again, a bit uncomfortable, like I talked about in the Mars and Uranus conjunction video, which I highly encourage you to watch. But what we also see here is that it does have some other positive or useful aspects that we could dig into. We've got a really nice connection over here with the sun being in Cancer at 23 degrees. This forms a sextile. It's not exact, but it does form a sextile. So the sextile is like, this is actually really very useful. Can be quite positive if used in that way to help you get motivated to rebuild something that will also speak to your safety, to your security, to your abundance moving forward. It's about moving you forward. But in order to do it, a break has to happen because Mars and Uranus still use the word break. I have to break. I have to break away. I have to break down. I have to break free from. Something has to break, right? There's a lot of electricity. There's still a lot of fire that we're going to be talking about in the combination with this. And things happening suddenly is still very real. And like I was saying before, this is not just in our own personal lives. This is a global event as well because Uranus is an outer planet. So will we see stories of surprise attacks, fires, ambushes, explosions, breaks in other way? How about the kind of breaks that allow us to advance science or knowledge forward in some way, shape, or form? So I wanted to just take a minute and actually pull up the charts and give you a chance to see how these stories really, really, really look different based on what's going on as a whole, because we talk about it in terms of the transit itself when it's happening. Some are rare, some are not. If it's rare, there's a lot of power, there's a lot of emphasis there. This one that's happening in July, it's not rare. We will see it again, but its impact, especially while the world is changing so much, is pretty potent, right? This has not got the protection of a destiny point on it. It's simply a lot of energy. Now, I wanted to take a second to really quickly and look at some of these big changes that came out of 2022 when we had the Mars and Uranus conjunction come together. Some of the even headline stories that were trending at the time were amazing. First of all, we saw that Nancy Pelosi went and visited the Taiwan. She was visiting Taiwan, right? First time after 25 years. And that was a big deal. That did not make China happy with the United States of America, right? That was a huge deal. If you guys don't remember reading about that or you're not up to par with that kind of stuff, that was absolutely there. Mexico, 48% of Mexico states were experiencing an absolute drought, right? They were having to have water come in. It was like, shoo, it just got sucked right down there. How Uranus and Taurus is that as well, because just as much as the lava is willing to come up and out, that water is willing to go down. What else did we have? We also had at the time an advancement in science where there were cells from pigs that had the cells were dead, and new research was actually able to bring them back to life. And this had huge implications for things like organ transplants, so that more people, as they're experiencing organ transplants or things like that, they maybe don't have to have a failed transplant and things like that. So this was a big deal in terms of science, but there were many, many other stories as well that had to do with fire. How about August 5th of 2022, where we saw that fire was breaking out in Chile? Right? That was rough. And this particular aspect happened on August 1st of 2025, which is why I say it's not always just on the day. We are going to have this energy make an impact for the days to come, okay? And also, this is one of my favorite ones that actually happened in 2022. I did think this story was cool when it came out, but on August 5th of 2022, Volkswagen launched the prototype for the first flying car. Listen, I've been waiting to be a Jetson my whole life, right? I was promised Jetson level living. So I feel like it's very good. Okay, now there are many, many, many other things that have happened as we look at this particular energy as it's pulling in. And it looks like so far, I was looking up just what even has been happening in the days leading up to the Mars-Uranus conjunction as of today when I'm recording, which is, what is today when I'm recording? Today is the 11th, okay? So we see that there's already plenty of stuff happening around Donald Trump, things going on with hush money. That's a whole scenario that is coming up. So we're having a breaking away from. The Republican Party convention is getting ready to be held in November, which will be really important. But I think that decisions and energy that comes in this next week when the Mars and Uranus conjunction come together are going to play a big role in what we see, but it can also bring sudden change. It can bring warring kind of energies in, high-spirited debates about what's going on, people getting so heated that they can't contain themselves. We'll have plenty of things to be watching for and to be looking into as we're going to be traveling these next days. And whether you're in the United States, you're in Mexico, you're in Europe, you're in Australia, you're in France, wherever you are at, you can also pull up at astro.com. You can pull up the chart of your country and say, okay, well, now wait a minute, where is this 26 degrees of Uranus and Mars coming together in my country's chart, and get a little bit of a feel of what house is it happening in for your country? What are some things that you might be seeing that are maybe even going to play out that will absolutely impact your world going forward, especially in the next month, okay? All right, my beautiful friends, thank you for your questions. If you have more questions, feel free to put them in the comment section down below. I always try to like and love and say a little something to every comment, but I see you all the time. And really, truly, if you have more questions, ask. I would be happy to share what I know astrologically about it and share that with you. All right, friends, check out these videos next. Bye.